Good morning, beautiful people. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. Today, I want to talk about something that I've been holding back for months. I want to talk about the Season 8 mid-season finale of The Walking Dead because I am very, very unhappy about it. Spoiler alert for any of you who are not caught up with The Walking Dead until Season 8, the mid-season finale. Now that is your spoiler warning. Now let's talk about what happened at the end of the episode after we had a fantastic scene with Carl and Negan. Absolutely amazing. I loved the episode right up until the last shot, which is of Carl. He lifts up his shirt and he's bit on his chest. It has been confirmed. There is no doubt about it. Carl is going to die. This is the worst mistake that they have ever made in the Walking Dead franchise. This might just be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Walking Dead is not shy about not getting ratings anymore. It is desperate for views and ratings, so much so that they made one of the best scenes, the most compelling scenes from the comic book, a cliffhanger from Season 6 to Season 7, just for views, and it completely ruined the moment, and took away any sort of meaningful or impactful payoff to the amazing and beautiful tension it built up in that Season 6 finale. This is just yet another one of those moments, because when the second half of Season 8 is out, there's going to be this big controversy, like there was a couple months ago, about Carl and what's going on with Carl and how this changes the game and how you need to tune in to see how our characters deal with it. The reason I don't like this, the reason I hate this, is because Carl is the most important character in the entirety of The Walking Dead. Love him or hate him, he is the singular most important person in this entire series and this entire world. Everything that Rick does, everything that Rick thinks about, everything that the group has done it for Carl in some way, shape, or form. Every decision Rick has made, he has been thinking primarily about Carl. Yes, the entire group and Judith and everybody, but primarily for Carl. If you look after, I believe it was No Way Out, the season 5 finale? No, the season 6 mid-season finale, No Way Out. He's talking to Carl, who just got his eye shot out, about how he wants Carl to see the world. He wants him to grow up and have plans for that. And that is the ultimate purpose of The Walking Dead. When Robert Kirkman set out to create this comic book series, it was to document how somebody goes through the entire zombie apocalypse and comes out from it. That is why this whole group, that's why this show is doing everything that it's doing. If we just kept killing all of the characters all of the time and just rotating through a whole bunch of characters, this would all be meaningless. It would be nothing more than a daily soap opera. The pull for me personally with The Walking Dead was, of course, the zombie apocalypse and the interesting characters that we get from it. It's just been an absolutely fantastic show for characters and tension and all that sort of good stuff. But more importantly, Rick was a guy who lived in the real world. He lived in the civilized world. Now the zombie apocalypse happened, and we see how a father, would go from a civilized perspective and just degrade himself and evolve himself into the Walking Dead. That was an absolutely amazing moment in Season 5 with that line. Now, Rick going from the civilized world to the zombie apocalypse world was at its peak around Season 5 when I just said that line, "We are the Walking Dead." When that happens after Terminus, after the hospital, our group is as sort of brutish and just as vulnerable as they can. They know what the zombie apocalypse is like. They know what the world is like now. They know what the threats are, and they are capable of living in it. Now, that's where we get the interesting Alexandria storyline, and that is now where the show was all about building back society. How do we come back? How do we realize we're not too far gone? How do we come back from this brutish awful post-apocalyptic world to rebuilding society, working together, and recreating what Rick was like before, recreating what the civilization was like before this all began. And the way we were going to see that, the way we were going to see the transformation, the way we were going to look back to season 1 and to now was solely 100% Carl. Yes, it was Rick's story, absolutely. But like I said, every motivation that Rick has is 100% now because of Carl. Carl was always being influenced by Rick. If you're a longtime subscriber, you will know that I have played the first season of the Walking Dead video game. And much like in that video game, much like in the Walking Dead TV show, everything you did as the player, as Lee, you were doing not just to survive, not just to see if you would survive the zombie apocalypse or whatever, but you were doing so that you can make Clementine be as capable as possible to survive and also retain that humanity. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, he still has Judith. Now that Carl's gone, we still have Judith. But that does not remove the first seasons of Rick's decision making, all the way up until about season 3 of him making decisions because of Carl. Judith wasn't here. Judith was not even a player. Even when Judith was born, yes, he was doing it for Judith, but Judith was not there observing Rick, learning from Rick, being changed by Rick. We see Carl develop a lot, and Carl developing is the most important part. Judith cannot develop as a baby. She cannot. There's no interesting character about her. She's not going to learn or understand or recognize the zombie apocalypse or what happened. So seeing Judith be a civilized human is not at all any sort of payoff whatsoever. Seeing Carl be a civilized human in the New World Order or whatever, that would have been the payoff. That would have been the biggest payoff, I think, in television history. Now, the showrunner, Scott Gimple, was like, I was looking at the comics and I really wanted Rick to not kill Negan. By the way, spoiler alert to everybody, Scott Gimple, Rick does not kill Negan. I've known this for a while, but the television show fans do not know this. So it's like, you're ruining that experience because you're explaining your decision making here. But the decision was Rick wants to kill Negan now, but something needs to convince him not to kill Negan, because then that's the compelling part. Being civilized, dealing with people in a more civilized manner, that sort of thing, being more human, that sort of thing. That's sort of the theme that's going on currently about, do you murder? Is it right to murder? Are you any better than, that sort of thing, It's a really nice, really good theme. But anyway, so they saw a lack of need to keep Negan alive in the television show. Fair point, right? Because, he's Negan. He's done a lot of bad things. But we can accomplish this in a much different way. If the goal is to not kill Negan and to have some sort of humanity and some sort of civilized stuff about you to not kill, there are a plethora of different characters that you could use for this. The most obvious one being Morgan. Everybody can see this coming. Morgan is all about not killing, and there's just so many different ways you can go about it. Morgan, I feel like he's used his time up. I have no freaking clue why Morgan is even still in the show. He's not doing anything. Now, Morgan wouldn't be my first choice because Morgan and Rick don't even talk to each other. I mean, Morgan was the first guy to save Rick, but they don't spend any screen time together. They don't talk to each other. They're not impactful on one another. That brings up Daryl. Daryl is Rick's brother. Daryl and Rick have been side by side since season 1. Daryl has undergone some great character development, and a lot of his character has been gone and missing ever since we got to Alexandria. You see, I recently rewatched the entire season up to about season 6, and Daryl is a much more interesting character in all of those seasons than he is in the past 2 seasons, season 6, 7, and now the first half of 8. But what's interesting to me about Daryl is that we always think of Daryl currently, and the way they portray him in the show, is this very violent and angsty bad guy, bad boy sort of guy. But that was That was Merle. That's who Merle was. Daryl was always the guy who was in it just because his brother was that way. He always had a good, kind heart. That's what made Daryl Daryl. He was rough and he was kind of gritty and he was hurt, but he always had that kind heart. He was the only one who always looked for Sophia. In fact, going to the hospital storyline, when Tyrese was like, we don't need to kill any of them, we can make a deal, it was actually Daryl that was like, he's right, we don't need to kill anybody, we can go in there peacefully. Mind you, the hospital people stole Beth, who he was super close with after the prison arc. And so you would think that the current Daryl would just be like, oh, I just want to crash a car and break the entire story. And Daryl wouldn't do that. Daryl would not do that. He is a kind person. He values human life, even with Dwight. It was even still there with Dwight. Now I know he's jaded, doesn't trust them, all that sort of good stuff. That's kind of a conflict of interest that's been brought up, and that's a fair point. However, for the majority of Daryl's entire character, he has always been more pacifist and more kind than we've given him credit for. If Daryl, who was kidnapped and tortured by Negan, saw that Dwight changed, Dwight is capable of changing, saw the sanctuary, saw all of the good people that are in there, and then returns to Rick saying, we don't need to kill anybody. We don't even need to kill Negan. That's just how they do things. They're just different. If we had that moment, that is more than enough to change Rick's idea. Now, of course, we need this big view attention, rating attention grab of somebody dying. And you know what? I'm fine with that. You can make it Daryl. Having Daryl been bit, he can die. We can have this moment because now Rick and him are super close, because Rick and him are super close. You go back to season 4, it's like, you're my brother, Daryl. Where is that? Where's my brother, Daryl? No, they had a little slap fight. Now, I liked how the fight turned out, with the chokeholds and everything. That was a fun little callback and all that sort of good stuff. But the Daryl we have currently is not the Daryl that we have had in the past 6-7 seasons. Daryl would never, ever just cold blood kill Morales like that and not say anything about it. He would never kill that kid and not say anything about it. I get he's angry, I get they're playing that up, but there's no way that would happen. Speaking of unlikely things, it gets even worse because Carl has never, ever been this sort of, oh, we need to save people, oh, we need to be humanitarian and all this sort of crap, we need to save lives. No, this kid killed another kid back in season 3 with the prison thing, This kid has been the most, he grew up in the zombie apocalypse. He has no idea what being civilized means. That's what the entire purpose of the show is. If the entire purpose of the show is to get him to have some sort of humanity and civilization within him, mission accomplished. Just end the show, because that's what it's all about. And Carl's obviously had that according to the showrunners, but if you watch the show in its entirety, Carl did a 180. Carl did a 180. He went from, mind you, last season, Carl hid in a truck with the machine gun to kill Negan. And now he's like, no, we need to save him. We need to talk to him. We don't have to kill anybody. It's the most bull crap. I can't even understand what their reasoning is. I don't get it. It makes zero sense. It is 100% for shock value. It's the stupidest decision I've ever seen in any television show, like ever. I'm a huge fan of The Walking Dead. Rewatching it, still a huge fan. I love it. I understand some of the plot points can be a little bit out there, a little bit stretched, but this just takes the cake, man. This is the worst decision I've ever seen, and this is going to kill The Walking Dead, ironically, and I don't think it's coming back from this. Season 8, the mid-season finale, this is where The Walking Dead puts itself down. But anyway, that's all I have time for you guys today. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about The Walking Dead? And what did you think about this video? I know it's a little bit different. I know it's a little something ranty that I wanted to give to you, but hopefully you enjoyed the more relaxed and kind of podcast style of video talking about just a random topic, not about any games, but about something that I quite like and something that's fun to talk about as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until the next absolutely beautiful Call of Duty morning. Oh man, what do I say here? Beautiful Walking Dead morning? Beautiful zombie morning. I'll catch up with you guys later. As always, stay beautiful.